We introduced a new segment last week that I pre-recorded, and it's the first time doing it live. And I'm happy to have two awesome guests today too that get to, be a part of it. But this is our new props or flops segment where you guys get to participate. Yes, that's right. I want you all to keep doing this week after week. Let's build this up. You guys need to upload any comic book picture to Instagram. You could take a picture of it or find a stock image online. This could be a book that you recently purchased or a book that maybe you're thinking about purchasing. Use the hashtag props or flops. Also, tag me and Comic Book Canon in it because we know these hashtags are garbage. But I want you to tell us why this book interests you, whether I just bought this book for this much amount of money and I want to know if it's a good investment, or I'm looking to buy this book because I'm specking on this character to show up in this show. What do you think? What do you think? Every week, I will pick at least 3. Sometimes there could be more, but at least 3 to be featured on the show that week. We'll talk about it. We'll break it down. We'll break down the market, and I'll give you my honest opinion, props or flops. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. We got 3 picks today that we're going to go over, and I'm excited.
I'm excited too. This is not part of your interview. We just want to know if you're excited as well, John and Richard.
Oh, yeah. I'm curious to see what's coming up. Okay, I got to wear a diaper as opposed to every other day.
Normally, I gotta wear a diaper. I'm just making a statement.
All right, Chris. I don't know which one you're going to go with, but we do have 3.
No order. Let's just bring them on up.
Oh, you want me to just bring it up?
Yep. Bring it on up. What do we got first? All right. Look at this book, Proctor Valley Road from that's Brandon Hanson B443. He says, props or flops. This is sneaky come up, and I'm gonna give it props. A lot of people are not talking about this comic and checking cover price. It is at a $35 sale, but I bet you can find this in the back issues for less than that. All right, so Brandon's he's giving it props. I'm gonna say this, guys. I read this. I didn't read the whole series yet. I think I only read the first 3 issues. I was really enjoying it. Morrison doing a great job. It's fun. It's spooky. And if you want something solid to read, this is a solid story. You can probably find the trade paperback. Now, I'm going to get into if I'm giving this props or flops, though. And remember, in this segment, we are going to look more on the investment side of things. I give this props all day as a story. Great story. I love what Boom is doing with a lot of their stories that aren't of the superhero genre. Loving it, okay? But let's look at this book and what Brandon says here about this $35 sale. If you guys monitor the sales, that $35 sale is a huge outlier. There should be no reason that, let me not say there should be no reason. There is no real spec value on this book, but that's not a bad thing because remember, spec value oftentimes can deflate. I don't know if people are really going after this book as a collectible though right now. That's not like they're scarce out there. There's plenty out there. The average sale of this book is still around $5 to $10, and that's on eBay and mycomicshop.com. I'm sure you can, just like Brandon says, you could probably still walk into an LCS and find it in the back issue bins, maybe for cover price or $4 or $5. To my knowledge, it hasn't been optioned, but even if it has, a large majority of things that are optioned don't see the light of day. There's just nothing really here that tells me why this one person bought this book for $35. So in that case, this is why I tell you guys, you got like Jizza said, you got to read the labels. You got to read into the data, right? Don't just look at the data as face value, because you could go on cover price right now and it could say like last sale or, high value raw, $35. But that doesn't tell the whole story, guys. It's one sale because you have multiple sales after that are still under $10. So if we want to talk about picking this book up for any investment purposes, I got to give it a flops without question. But Brandon, It is, again, I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Like I said, I think it's a great book. This was a limited series, so I don't even think it can have like long-term, saga value or Walking Dead value. I don't think there's anything really there long-term for this book when talking about an investment.
So guests go first. John, Richard, I'm not sure which of you will jump in, but feel free.
I have to completely agree with your assessment of this book. As one of the commenters, Jay Nunya, says, all option indies are flops with some exceptions. It is a rarity that you end up with these indies being of value.
John, you may have to jump in.
Welcome to my world, people. We've all decided to start a GoFundMe for Richard.
I've switched companies. This is disgusting. For every 8 billion genies, there are at least 1,000 other titles that just never make it. And if I had to put my investment dollars, we're not talking about the collectability of this book as a story, because I think there's always values. Someone would find interest in it. But if you're planning on buying this book today with the intent of selling it for a profit tomorrow, I'd rather put my money in something that's more sure. $35 can go into something that has a more predictable future to it. So yeah, I think I would have to say this is a flop too.
My reaction is Grant Morrison wrote a book for Boom. That shows you how plugged in I am. So
okay. So you were okay, because when this book came out, there was a lot of hype that was surrounding it. And I'm gonna, again, John, I'm assuming you don't have enough information on it, but I completely agree with Chris and Richard on this in terms of indies kind of having that long-lasting effect. And you said 8 billion genies. That's not even a sure thing either, Richard. It's hot right now, right?
That's true.
Remember Department of Truth?
Department of Truth too. Yes. Now, granted, Department of Truth I would put more stock into than Proctor Valley Road because of the production company that's behind it. They did Chernobyl for HBO, and they are a proven commodity. So, granted, we don't know. Even though they picked it up, doesn't mean it's going to get greenlit either. But I completely agree with this. I'd have to give it a flop as well. John, I'm assuming you'd give it a flop too.
Is it about a lonely country proctologist that?
Not close.
Okay, then yes, flop. Okay. Otherwise, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it.
All right, I like ending on that. Christopher, next one. I'm just going to pull it up.
Let's do it.
You wing it. Yep.
They're not all winners.
All right. Mark, our good friend Mark Leneker. We got Master of Kung Fu King Size Annual #1. Let's see what Mark wrote here. Master of Kung Fu Annual #1, and the only annual that they did. First meeting in story of Shang-Chi and Iron Fist. They shared covers previously on some Deadly Hands magazines, but never teamed up. They traveled to the Dark Mirror version of Kung Lun, called I'm gonna butcher this, Sa'ara-san, to prevent an invasion of Kunlun. With more Shang-Chi and Daredevil Reborn coming in the Kunlun connection, it seems a good way to bring Iron Fist into the MCU proper. Okay, as always, we love what Mark adds to the context of these books that he presents, even for Fresh from the Comic Shop segment and everything. There's so much to take from this here. First off, you look at this as an annual. I've been saying that, like, especially when you go back to Bronze Age, even some Copper Age, annuals are getting a lot more attention because we're starting to see that there was a lot of like first team ups or certain story arcs, weddings, origins that happen in annuals that weren't getting a lot of attention before. I think collectors are really buying into that. And then you get one that's like the only annual that they did. I think that could stand out to some collectors. But I really do like this being the first team up of Shang-Chi and Iron Fist for a couple of reasons. One, let's talk about what Mark's talking about. What can happen in the MCU? I absolutely, hands down, agree. Now, keep in mind, we have a new Iron Fist in the comics. We might not even see Danny Rand in the MCU. I don't know, but looking at how they've done things with some other things, it could be. But even if we don't see Danny Rand as Iron Fist in the MCU, if we see the new, Swordmaster, what was his name? I forget what his.
Oh Say it again. What?
Swordmaster.
The new Iron Fist.
Yeah, Swordmaster. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if this is like the rendition of Iron Fist we get in the MCU, and he teams up with Shang-Chi, I still think it can put value on any of the Iron Fist stuff, even though it's Danny Rand. The other thing I want to point out here too is that this is a Bronze Age book. And I've been talking about Bronze Age books for years now, about how as we age out, there is going to be more of a demand for the Bronze Age books and these, what I call kind of minor keys or books that have some type of key established, whatever going on in the book. There's going to be more eyes towards that. So this is a situation where we're not looking at Mark saying, oh, I paid $100 for this. I looked at the average value of this book trending over the last couple of years, and we've seen a slow uptick, nothing too crazy, which shows me that there is no FOMO out for this. There isn't, this deflatable spec that's being put on this book. So being that, if anybody can find this book in a decent grade or for a decent price, I give this book a props. I think there is a lot of value to be had there intrinsically long term, just because of it being a cool Bronze Age book with a first team up of these two characters. But then if you add in the spec value with what could happen in the MCU down the road, it could add even more future value if you're buying it right now. So I'll give this book a props.
Before we get to Richard and John, I just want to remind everybody, you guys usually kick ass on this segment and are always giving us your opinion. We only got like a few people. Caleb Leland is giving it props as well. Love to hear more from you guys. We have one more book, so let us know what you think. But before we move on to the next book, Richard, John, your thoughts, props or flops on this book?
Iron Fist was on Netflix, dude. Are you not counting that?
Chris gave it props.
Yeah.
It was Danny Rand. I don't think if they meet in the MCU proper, it's not going to be Danny Rand. It's going to be someone else. One thing to remember about these books in general, in 4 years, it will be 50 years old. Yep. I don't think people realize that.
Wow.
That's exactly. Crazy. You're so used to seeing them in bins and you flip past them and you're like, oh, another copy of Master of Kung Fu Annual number 1, whatever. It's 50 years old in 4 years. It's 46 years old right now. So one thing, as someone that's been around since 1976 plus, the high grade copies do not exist in bins. They're now in private collections and they've been hoovered up. So those are two things in its favor. The things not in its favor, is it going to be Danny Rand in the MCU? Does anybody give a crap? It's not the best cover. It's, one of those generic Marvel 1970s Ron Wilson, Frank. Yeah, exactly. I can't even tell you who drew that cover. Let me see. Look, it's kind of a Al Milgram-ish kind of look to it on the inks. I couldn't tell you who penciled it. It's so generic. It looks like a Atlas cover, not the 50s Atlas, but a 70s Atlas cover, that short lived era of Atlas.
Yep.
So I that's a long-winded way of saying soft prop.
I like that.
Yeah, I have to say, if I was there's an advantage of buying Bronze Age books over modern books. There's a longer track record in terms of value that's been established over time, and people, I think, feel more comfortable in buying these Bronze Age books. They could see the trends, and when these books do crash, they crash less than the modern books do. By the way, Mark, hi Mark. Mark's also a friend of our show. I agree with John. This may not be a major key, but I think it's an important enough key that if you get it at a good price, it's something I would pick up. I would pay $35 for this faster than I would pay $35 for the indie that we just talked about.
Yeah,
9.0 or better.
Yeah,
with that caveat.
Well said on that too. By the way, again, even though it may not be Danny Rand in the MCU when and if they bring Iron Fist in, they still have a tendency of extracting pieces of storylines, right, from books. So that right there, and everybody loves these first meetups of characters anyways. So what you're saying, you combine that with the collectability of these characters first meeting in the comic books with the possibility of having some of that translated to the screen. I'm giving it a props for sure. No doubt about that. So that was a very interesting one. Mark Lineker always bringing the interesting topics. Again, guys, this is the last book we're doing for Props or Flops. It's the third book. We want to hear from you. Is this props or flops? Chris, take it away.
Here we go. Here we go. Cover junkie. Star Wars goodness, guys. Canon, the last Padawan, Kanan, excuse me.
Canon. No, it's Canon.
Canon is how I've
Canon.
pronounced
Yeah, okay,
it.
Okay. Phonetically, that would be correct. As a educator myself, let's see what he wrote. Cover Junkie Comics, Props for Flops. This book interests me because of the handful of first appearances that should all end up having live action roles. Rebels is my favorite of the Star Wars animated series, so for me it's props. But I'm curious what you guys think. News is Iman Esfandi has been cast as Ezra. Maybe this week is a better week to discuss on props or flops. So, okay. Now, I just want to first say I'm all on board with Star Wars. I don't even want to call it spec, but Star Wars first appearances and the hype around the interest in buying Star Wars books. I think when you talk about Star Wars spec, it's a little different because I think you actually do have a lot of Star Wars fans that are coming over into the comic book hobby that weren't really in it before necessarily, or paid that much attention. Where I think with MCU spec, you got a lot of people that are probably coming back into the hobby, that have been out of it. It's definitely a bit of a different dynamic. And from somebody that watches how these books move on the market, they tend to move a little differently. So I absolutely like Star Wars first appearances right now. Obviously, it has a lot to do with them world building with all these live action TV shows and films. We are going to get more films coming down the pipeline. Now, I'm a little hesitant with this book because yes, Ezra was just cast. So what does that mean for spec, right? It means you missed the boat. Now, I know it's only one character because this book has, a handful of first appearances in it. So that kind of changes the dynamic as well. Now, I was looking at the sales of this book and, this got hot. I believe it was last year, and I think it was kind of right around the peak of the quote unquote COVID boom. And looking at the values, it hasn't really dipped off. It's been a steady, solid purchase over the last year. So there's going to be an asterisk on my answer here, guys. I'm going to give this book a props because I still believe there is not only long-term value, but because there's so many characters in this, I do believe there's a lot to be had when it comes to the quote unquote speculation of this looking at live action. All right. But the asterisk is this. It is a modern book, right? So I'm not going to hold, it's a modern Marvel book even. It's not a Clone Wars #1 Dark Horse, which had probably, I don't even know if that had a smaller print run. Because print runs are pretty small these days. But I know that, that's a book that has a lot of hype because of the newsstand. I know the newsstand is very, very scarce out there of that book. And it's not even necessarily top as a top tier character as Ahsoka. That's maybe some Star Wars fans will argue with me on that. But I'd be very careful with this too, because we did get the casting of Ezra. So I'm going to give this a props, but I would be very, very careful with this. Don't just go on, eBay and search last sold and see a outlier and, think that that's a fair market value. Don't just go on to eBay or whatnot and getting into a FOMO bidding war. I'm giving this a props because I do believe that there's a lot of room for growth, but that all depends on what you pay for it right now. If you're buying, you could definitely overpay for this book right now, and that's the fine line that you got to ride. But if you are smart and educated in what you're doing and you're patient, this can definitely be a solid buy even right now, because we got a lot more, I think, building in the near future that can add value to this book.
I got so much to say, but I'm going to leave it to our guest first. Before I get into it. Richard, John, go for it.
Okay, well,
leave this to our resident Star Wars expert.
Yeah, John's not a Star Wars guy. This book is one of the books I have been specking on for a while now. I see some people comment that they'd rather have some of the Dark Horse books, and to some degree that may be true. I think people are specking on random Jedis and Sith coming from these Dark Horse books that I just don't think have a strong possibility of actually hitting the silver screen or the small screen even. This book I really like. I really like number 6 even more, which is the first cover appearance of Ezra. I would rather have a 6 than this number 1. But still, if you get a good price for this book, I think it's more than a good buy. I think we're going to see, just like we're going to see Doctor Doom in Marvel, we're going to see Ezra Bridger and the rest of the Rebels in the Star Wars universe. It's too big of a money draw for Disney not to do it. So I think now is a good time to buy it. Why there's still no real solid news about a property that includes these characters. You can still get this book for a reasonable price. So this is definitely a props for me.
I have one thing to say about this book, and that is I found a stash of them in Mexico City. I pressed them, and I made easily 6 times the amount I paid on them in less than 3 weeks. Yay! That's all.
No, seriously though, knowing that, what would you like? Even just that knowledge of how quickly you got, you.
I was in and out.
Okay, so what I'm saying is like right there. I'm not going to say it for you. Props or flops though.
I would say if you get it at a great price and you know what it's selling for, high grade raw, and you're happy with that, and you can make here's the thing about investing. You can't make your money back because you're losing money if you make your money back. You can't double your money because you're still losing money, because time and the effort is also counted towards that, resources. So if you can triple your money, it is props. If you're paying market price right now for this book, it is a flop.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
good point. Good point. You had mentioned, if you're paying if you're paying retail for this book, the opportunity for good profit on the may have already passed. I still think there are copies of this. I think there's still copies of these books laying around people don't know, especially Star Wars books. There's people selling, a set of 1 through 12 or in this case, of this book, and you can break out that set and pick out the valuable books out of it. I still think there's opportunities like that.
Dan, it's also street food.
Yeah, they got great. Street products are amazing. I'm with Richard here. Like I am all in on these types of books right here, especially for the fact that you already have Ezra Bridger. He's been cast. I'm not sure if they announced it at D23, but Variety or the Hollywood Reporter reported on that. They confirmed it. Sabine Wren already cast. If you guys, as Richard was saying, and even John can attest to, they're out there. You find these books, you get them at a reasonable price, go for it. I would, well, you guys will think I'm crazy, but I still think that it's undervalued at fair market right now, because we're in a Star Wars lull, okay? We don't have any content right now, but we will. Ahsoka starts early next year. Mando starts late this year. We're getting these characters sooner rather than later because they have been cast. It's confirmed. I'm all in on this. So, and yeah, actually, Jay, sell when the trailer comes out. Like if that's what. But seriously, though, they are going to blow up. Now, are they at the Richard? I'll ask you this because it sounds like you do know your Star Wars. Are they at the level of Dr. Aphra, Star Wars, or Darth Vader #3?
That's a tough one. That book I think has more potential, but less certainty. We are certain to see Ezra. I think we're certain to see Dr. Aphra. She's just such a great character. It's just that anti-hero kind of character that would do really, really well on the small screen. But we don't have any real knowledge of her appearance. But we do know Ezra's coming, and we know he's going to be a part of Ahsoka's show. He may be a part of his own series with what's his name? The big blue baddie from
right here, Stephen Martin. Surprised we didn't see Thrawn, but I think
Thrawn. Thank you.
He's already. I mean, Ahsoka already named him in Mando season 2. So
yeah. So all this is coming. It's coming. It's to me, it's a definite. It's like Doom. It's coming. They're just waiting for the right opportunity to actually bring it into the market because it's going to make money, and that's all Disney really cares about when it comes down to it.
But to take it one step further with your Doom comment, Doom hasn't been cast for all we know. We don't have any information on that. These characters have been cast. And Chris, right there, that ends props or flops. Let's just remind everybody how to enter and how we're gonna get your props or flops question up on screen.
Yeah, guys. Again, remember this is about bringing you guys into this and getting participation and a chance for you guys to have your entries featured. So again, upload any book, take a picture of a book you already had that you just purchased, find a stock image of a book that you're looking to buy, post it to IG with the hashtag props or flops. Make sure you tag me, Journos_comics, and Comic Book Canon, just in case those silly hashtags don't want to grab your entry. But tell us why the book interests you, why you just purchased it, what you paid for. Tell us why you're in the market to buy it, and we will break it down live on our show and give it props or flops.